Hello there, my name's Steve, and you are tuned into and listening to the Go Football Podcast. So, this is the podcast that talks all about grassroots football. Whether you are a coach, player, parent, referee, just got a love for the game, sit tight, you are in the right place. So, this week on the episode, we are going to be talking about effective session plans and running your sessions effectively. So, let's cue the whistle and let's get into it. That's right then. So on the episode this week, I'll be covering a bunch of key areas of how to plan effective training sessions, to developing your own coaching philosophies. We'll look at managing mixed ability groups and also a bit of reflection as coaches, which is something I definitely think that we need to do. So there's not been much football recently for us. So yeah, just before we get into there, let me just cover off the last couple of weekends then for us. So what have I been up to? Well, look, hardly any football on as well. Like I say, it's been half term in our area. I know that some people are probably still on half term now, but when we have half terms, generally football sessions can quite easily just drop off because the amount of players that are not there, and sometimes just a much needed rest for players. They've been at school, they've done all these other things too, and sometimes they just need to have a little break as well. And sometimes it's nice for the coaches to have a break too. But there was one game that I managed to referee at the weekend. It was a under-8s game. So with this under-8s game, it was literally just over the road for me. It's like 7-a-side. I think it's great. Really, really good game between the two lads as well. So 50 minutes, I got my little bit of exercise, a little bit of running. I actually managed to put my ref's kit on rather than having to coach a game of football or anything like that. I actually thought it was really good. I think sometimes really important with these games, though, especially with this one, because it was a friendly game that had been set up between the coaches, was that even when something happens in the game, you've got to just act within, the spirit of the game and make sure that it's okay. I mean, in this game, there was one lad absolutely volleyed at the keeper. The keeper caught it, but obviously, like, fully in the gut. I looked at the keeper, I thought, oh gosh, he's going to start crying. This has hurt him as well. So, ran over, made sure he's all right. And I, even as a ref as well, and look, I know some people give you stick and say you should follow the rules all the time, but I literally took the ball out of his hands, put the ball on the floor and said, are you okay? Just made sure that it was okay, and then just dropped the ball back to him and gave it to him as well. Just making, like, look there. He was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 maybe. Wouldn't have been any older than that. Sometimes you just have to be within the spirit of the game as well. So, look, football activity, apart from the one-to-one sessions, has all been regarding football, really, for me. Just down to one game this week, unfortunately. But look, we've got an action-packed episode today. Let's talk about all these different things. I think that planning sessions, that is going to be the first thing that we'll look at then. So when we're looking at planning sessions and we're looking at effective training sessions, always might sound really simple. And to be honest, it probably could be. I think a lot of people complicate them too. So I think that every session needs to start off with this. If you're a coach and you're thinking, how do I plan an effective training session? What do you want to get out of this session? That's going to be the first question you've got to ask yourself. Now, I do think there's a lot of things that we can do to set up your whole session before we even think about all of those things. And you can kind of fit this in there too. But I think that a really engaging arrival activity is probably one of the most important things that you can do as a coach to keep everyone invested in that straight away and doing something straight away. How many times I've been to coaching sessions where I've either observed, I've been on the pitch at the side with my session and seen the coach, gather everyone up, get them all in a line, all stand on the red line, all stand on the white line, all stand on the blue line, whatever it is, stand there, and then they get talked to for about 10 minutes or 5 minutes before they even get started with anything. For me, it's very much about an arrival activity, and especially those arrival activities where someone can just join in as you go. So a couple of things I do. One is I start with a game, especially if I've got enough to play there. If I've got eight players that are there out of the however many are turning up, straight into a 4v4 game. And then fifth one will come, you're a bib. Next one will come, the 7th player will come, non-bib, straight into something. But if I don't have the players to do that, 1v1 practice or something that's really engaging to begin with, where they've got the ball at the feet and they're in some sort of competition and it's a real football situation, which is why I just mentioned the 1v1s. And I've done a load of practices of 1v1s. You can always go and see them over on TikTok, Facebook and YouTube. Do all those kind of activities because they're more engaging to begin with. People are generally a little bit out of breath by the time that we do need to bring everyone in. But I think that makes it much better than just going straight into a technical practice that you do where it's you stand on that cone, you stand on that cone, you pass to them. How many times do we do practices that are just, as kind of warm-up arrival activities, which is just pass it and follow it, pass it and follow it, pass it and follow it, pass it and follow it. In a game, do you just pass it to someone who stood still and then follow it to them where they are? Very rare that you would do that, or you would want to coach that in a game. You wouldn't want to be saying, get close to everyone. How many times the coach is shouting, spread out, spread out, spread out? If you're doing practices where it's cone to cone and you're running and following your pass all the time, one, it's very repetitive as well, which I get. You need to do some of the repetitive work, and it needs to, you need to have that in there. But at the same time, is it game realistic? Probably not. Is it as enjoyable? Probably not. So, nice arrival activity to get started with, as what I always think is really, really good. I think that if you've got your learning objectives already in place, you can make your arrival activity engaging, and you can also make it related to the task that you're thinking of doing. So, for example, something that I did this week with my under 14s is I really decided, I looked back at some of the VOs that we had, and a lot of the time the players were taking a touch and they were going back the wrong way, as opposed to turning their body slightly so that we can get into some really good positions. Didn't think we were playing forward enough. I thought that we were trying to build, play a lot of the time when it wasn't necessary. So arrival activity turned up. We had an arrival activity which was about diagonal passes, straight runs, straight off a movement, and in wide positions as well. And we just kept on going, and we had it as a wave. So someone turned up a little bit late, they just joined the wave as we were going with it. And we had multiple balls in play, and everyone was able to do that. But what we were doing is we were playing the ball forward. So everything had to run on this arrival activity. Everyone was having to run from a straight run from a diagonal pass straight away. Well, that brings us into the next game we were playing. So 2 mini games that we played. With these 2 mini games, it was very much about end zones. So we were playing with end zones. So you have to be able to run forwards. So you can't run into the end zone until the ball's been played. So it helps with offside too. But yeah, we were playing with end zones. So that arrival activity that we had that was quite engaging, lots of balls flying all over the place, playing the ball forwards, go straight into a game. So we had an objective as to what we were doing, and I explained those objectives too. So that's what we had to do. I think it was one of those things where, yeah, we were really looking to achieve the best that we could about going forwards and trying to explain those things. And I think that really helps with everything. But it's also done in a realistic way. So we didn't go absolutely mad of, can we play forwards and just play over the top constantly? It was, can we keep the ball on the floor? Can we do all of those things? That's what made it really, really engaging for them to be able to do. And, look, the key rules, I think, are for effective planning of your sessions. I think it is keep it fun, keep it realistic, but also keep it simple, and make sure that any of your arrival activities, any of your coaching activities, anything that you're doing in between there, again, all link in to what your objective is going to be for that session. So next thing I would say in your sessions is also guided discovery. Now, probably wondering, what do we mean by guided discovery? Well, a couple of things that we can also mean by this as well. I genuinely think this, and you can probably tell this from all of the previous podcasts too, is that barking orders and expecting them to treat players like robots, probably it's not part of the modern game anymore as well. I think that coaching is more about helping players think for themselves and giving them opportunities to think for themselves. So again, someone stood on one coast, someone stood on another, pass and follow your run, not much thinking, not much doing, you're not really thinking for yourselves, you've told them what to do. Whereas 1v1s, you can kind of let them have an area and a bit of space to be able to go forwards and try different things, and things that go right, things that go wrong, and sometimes you have to coach knowing that there's going to be errors within that process too. So yeah, absolutely essential that you can kind of do that. Now, where are we looking at this really, and where are we looking at getting this guided discovery? Well, look, the guided discovery is kind of just ask questions more. Okay, if you ask questions like, what could you do different next time, or how could you create more space, or something along those lines, you will probably get better responses. And also, it's like anything, if you can ask someone a question and they are able to then answer it themselves, that'll be great, because one, they can answer it themselves, they're more likely to learn and pick it up for next time. So you don't need to keep on saying it all the time. So the idea of when players can figure things out for themselves just means that it sticks better, okay? And that's from all ages, from 5-year-olds right the way through to adult ages too. So ask those questions as well, and that'll really help with things like building confidence, decision making, making up new skills of what they need to do. But I think what it will do is it'll sort of separate your players of the ones that are able to think for themselves and ones that maybe need some help in some other areas for you, which can really bring us on to how to communicate effectively with players. If you want to learn how to effectively communicate with players, sometimes it's not what you're saying, it's how you say it. It's what you're doing when you're effectively communicating. Now, a lot of people think communicating, it's all about verbal. Very, very wrong. Okay, there's some. I'm sure that someone's going to be able to email in, and if you do want to email in, by the way, it is just gofootballpod@gmail.com, and tell me the stats of how much of your what you're saying is your body language, and what is it the actual words that you're using, and how much is it in the tone that you're saying it in. They're all very different. I think with some kids and with some players, they learn in different ways. One, they will learn from you telling them. Some will learn from showing. Some will learn from doing. They'll all learn in those different ways. One thing you have to appreciate with children is, especially with young players, is that they switch off fast. How many times, like, listen here, lads, listen. We've all been in that situation where we've had to say that a few times. So yeah, use demonstration, praise the efforts that people are doing, just create a safe environment so that they can make mistakes, but you're also able to effectively communicate with them. So if you notice that you're telling them to do something and they're not getting it, that's when you need to think, well, that's probably not the right approach for this type of practice or this type of drill or this kind of movement that we're trying to do for this set of players. Let's do some demonstrations. Get some of the players to demonstrate it for you so that they can see exactly what they're doing in all the areas. You've got to remember, coaches, it's not about us when we're at these sessions, really. It's about what we can give. And being effective at communicating means that, sometimes it'd be better for us to use different players doing stuff instead. And that'll be much better to do. Yeah, so good coaches, I think that they talk to their players and they don't talk at them as well. So if you want to communicate effectively, ask questions, reinforce their learning, and go through that guided discovery of, what do you think you could do better? Why do you think this? Why do you think that? I think when we get into the mode of asking those things, everything sticks better. And it's always great when you ask the question to a player and they say, I did this. So, for example, I had one of my players recently. We were looking at taking shots into the bottom corner and just opening the body right. He identified where his body was going wrong. He identified that, and I just asked him, what do you think happened there with that shot? I was facing the wrong way as well. I took the touch wrong there. Identifying it all himself. You know what? Afterwards, everything was going where it should have been as well, which is great. So I think that one of the hardest things to do as a coach, and this is really hard when you're putting your sessions together as well, is if you are managing a mixed ability group. Now, it's not always mixed ability on skill set. Sometimes it can be mixed abilities on confidence levels, learning speeds, all of those different things. So they might all have the same skill level, really, as footballers, but some of them, their learning of what it is that you're trying to get them to do or want them to do or want them to be able to do is all going to be at different pace. And you'll see some people will pick it up quick, some players will take a little bit longer to do, and sometimes that is the mixed abilities that you also have. I think a lot of the time people just think you're either level 1 or you're level 7 as a player or whatever in between, and that's the level that you're playing at. But I definitely think there's more to that. I think that what you can do is you can adapt the same activities to different players. So for passing practices as well, you might want more advanced players to use things like weaker foot or in tighter spaces. So you might not, so it's not too noticeable to players. Give them smaller areas to go and play in, so that they're using a lot more skills in those areas, or they're having to have a better technique in those areas, as opposed to some players that may be a little bit weaker. Just give them a little bit of a bigger area as well, but not really explain how that's happened. Maybe you're between the blue, you're between the red cones, something along those lines. And that makes it easier for you to be able to manage those kind of situations. I think that what you don't want to do is try and create separate groups. If you've got one group, what you don't want to do is have a whole group doing one activity and another group doing a completely different activity. If they're doing the same activity, but there's slight variations in there, that'll really help you manage those. And also, if they are, it means that the players that are maybe a little bit weaker see the players that are a little bit stronger doing the same activity, not realising that maybe their area is a little bit bigger, or you've made it slightly easy for them for another reason or two. They'll be more motivated in playing, and they won't feel like, oh, we're the ones that are not as good as the others. They'll probably not notice those things as well, which is always going to be good. I think that if you can too, and this is something that not everyone is always keen on, and I did do a podcast just about technology, but yeah, if you've got a bit of video analysis, even if it's just off a phone as well, just grab a phone, 30 seconds, you did this, can you see how you're coming in and doing this every time? Can really make a big difference to some of the players. And I know that's tricky in some settings and some scenarios where you're not always able to do that, but I do think it'll help. Just having those small clips really, really nice as well. And like I say, they need to be 30 seconds of look, when you take a shot, every time you do, you kick it in, you kick it past, and you do it because your body's facing that way. Doesn't matter how many times you explain, turn, turn, turn. As soon as they see themselves doing it, they're like, oh gosh, that's where I get it from. And I also think that one of the other things that we maybe need to do as coaches quite a lot of the time is just reflection for us as coaches. Now, we can do that in a number of different ways, and we can get all the feedback that we want from the people that we are coaching. We just need to ask the right questions as to, what they thought of the sessions too. But I think that a couple of questions we should always be able to ask yourselves are these things, which is what went well? What didn't go as well as planned? Probably another question as well. What will I do differently? Those kind of things, all different questions you can ask yourselves to just judge how you think your session went. Now, if you're the kind of coach that is just going to go, look, everything went perfect. Every single week, everything went perfect. Probably just reflect a little bit more. Okay. There's always something we can do better. There's always something we can go that didn't go quite to plan that we think we could do better. Or was it too easy for the group to be able to do? And do we need to plan something that is a bit more challenging for them? It's a couple of questions to be able to have. And what would you do different the next time? Again, maybe if everything did go to plan, what would you do differently next time? Maybe a different couple of things that you can do. Maybe if you've been talking a lot throughout the session, maybe you can be quiet, see if they can do it by themselves this time too. Remember, I think a lot of the time now with coaching, most of the time you can do it off the ball. You don't need to do it on the ball as well. If they've got the ball, let the players make their own decisions as well, then ask them afterwards those questions as well, where we can just get that information and ask them, what do you think you could do different next time? What went wrong? What can we do to get round? What would you try next time instead? All those different things. Well, they're the kind of things we can ask ourselves regarding our sessions as coaches. You can jot it down in a notebook. You can use apps. There's lots of different ways of being able to track all of these different things. And sometimes, look, you always have about 5, 15, 20 minutes in the car afterwards, especially putting stuff away because it's all soaked at the minute. After most sessions, all it's doing is raining in the evenings. You've got that time where you can just be thinking in the car rather than just blasting your music out and listening to Gala's Free From Desire on the way back like you've just won a cup final. Maybe just have a little bit of quiet time and maybe just think, what can I do different? And that's your time. That's the most amount of time that you're going to need to do everything, and you could just go, do you know what? I think that might work better next time, or I think I could do this better next time, or maybe I set those things up slightly differently, or could I use everything set up exactly the same for 2 different practices so it saves time for me? They're all the different things that we can do, and you can get a lot of these ideas from going through those CPD courses. There's loads of them that are on. I would always say all the ones I've ever been on have been great. They've been ran by people that know exactly what they're talking about. They've always had examples. They've generally had groups that have been in to come and demonstrate some of those, and honestly, I think some of my best sessions have been stolen, and some of my best ideas have probably been stolen from one of these CPD courses. So if you're not on any of those as a coach, go and have a look, see if you can jump on some. But I think that also, even if parents, I think you're also able to go and join on these courses too. And if you've got a chance to send your kids to one to be the ones that are doing the actual session that's been observed as too, you can always go back there and take a little look. It's some of them are pretty formal, but what they do give you is a bit of reflection time. You're able to discuss things with peer groups. How many times as coaches, unless you're on social media, which is generally pretty negative most of the time, there's a lot of positive in there. I try to give it a bit of positivity anyway, but a lot of them are pretty negative. You don't really interact with other coaches other than when you're playing against someone and you're talking to your team, they're talking to their team, and you're not really talking to each other too much. There's not really a time we can get together and bounce ideas and all the rest of it that you probably need to do. So I would definitely say if you can get to some of those, they would be absolutely great to go on. And I think that what you can get out of those is sometimes you can build your own coaching philosophy and a bit of identity to it as well. Just think about what you are as a coach and where you want to be as a coach. I mean, for a lot of players, I asked this question a couple of times to some coaches, which is, what position did you play in? Can everyone tell that you used to play in that position? If you used to be a defender and everything's all about defending in your sessions, everyone can tell that you used to be a defender. That's probably your coaching philosophy, and if you look at a lot of even, Premier League coaches, you can tell when they go from one place to another. I mean, couple of, going from Spurs to Notts Forest as well and trying to play the same systems as well didn't quite work out either. But you can see that there's a philosophy there as well. So you need to sort of think, can I prioritize things with it as well? Do you value creativity over structure? Are you more about structure? Is that your identity? Is that we are going to be really, really structured? Are we going to be hard to beat, but maybe not a winning team all the time as well? So are we going to be like a more defensive team? Are we going to be absolutely rock solid with a keeper, four at the back, two defensive midfielders, playing really far back, making it so we play really well with things like low blocks? Is that your identity? Or are you very much, no, we're about a counter-attacking team as well. We're a counter-attacking team because we've got speed in the team as well. We're going to look for the ball as well. We're going to leave players in certain positions. We're going to look to feed the ball to them really quickly. Are they some of the things that you value as a coach that you want to play with better? Unfortunately, you can't play with everything. You can't play with every philosophy all the time. You can't play every formation at the same time either. So you're going to have to pick those things. And I think that what you need to do is just prioritise probably what you think your team's going to be strong at, and also what you think that you're going to be good at coaching and how you'll be able to do that. But I think that once you've got it and you've wrote it all down and it's a plan for you, just make some short-term goals, make some long-term goals. And that's really how we effectively plan and effectively, run sessions and run games for, especially in the grassroots game. So look, that's going to be the end of the podcast today. I'm going to be jumping on a couple of extra podcasts this week. I think some of the ones that I was due to go on, I should be on this week, which would be nice for me, that I'm going to be not having to host it. I'm going to be asked questions. So I will tag all the links in for all of those ones too. And hopefully we're going to be doing a session all about girls football. I know I've mentioned it before, but the person that wanted to come on to the podcast to talk about those and talk about all the stats, it's half term, so they're away. So look, hopefully they're going to be back. When they are back, let's get them on the podcast. Let's do a session all about the girls' game and the women's game. So until next time, thanks very much, and I will speak to you all again soon.